Open your eyes.
If you are wondering why everything going on in the world feels so terribly off, then you have come to the right place. A veil has been put over the eyes of humanity. Evil people in high places have been hiding the truth in plain sight and building a false reality on lies and deception for far too long. And now, their time is coming to an end. It's time to fight back, to wake up, and to begin an uprising. Now is a time for judgment.
This is a time for judgment. Welcome to today's show, and it's a time to panic in a sense. It's time for people to wake up. We saw the first phase of what they've been trying to do, which is pretty much control everybody's behavior and everybody's lives to implement a social score. We saw these things with the beginning of the outbreak. Now we're seeing more and more of these puppets of the World Economic Forum getting put in positions of power. We all know about Trudeau. We know about, even in America, we've seen Trump at the World Economic Forum. We've seen Biden there. This has nothing to do with left, right, and has everything to do with a small group of people who are looking to control your behavior, to take away your freedoms, and to track everything you do, everywhere you go, and everything you think. Because they're going to slap you in the face and slap you on the wrist and not allow you to live your life anymore if they don't agree with you. Now, there's people out there who listen to my channel who troll it, and they go, well, it doesn't matter to me. You know, I don't agree with you, Mr. Judgment, or whatever you want to call me. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with what you say about LGB. I don't agree with these things. Oh, these people don't agree with you either. See, they're empowering you to give up our rights. They're working off of the behavior of people out there, making people weak, making people soft, making people sensitive so that they can begin controlling everyone's behavior, saying, look, the world's crumbling around us. People aren't standing up for themselves. We'll stand up for you. We'll police people that we disagree with. We'll create a modern day Babylon, and that's exactly what's going on. The new prime minister, talk about hand selected right from the World Economic Forum. I covered this guy in the past, and he is directly linked to the digital ID, and he's directly linked to the social score and digital currency being controlled, every aspect of it being controlled. And that is the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, who has a direct connection, of course he does, to a company in China, a tech company that does this exact thing. And his direct relation, of course, is that his father-in-law is tech partners with the World Economic Forum, not to mention that this guy has shown up at the World Economic Forum, not to mention that this guy has openly talked about digital ID. And this is why I'm worried about people out there who invested in digital currency and they thought that they were getting ahead of the Federal Reserve, and they said, we're going to beat it. We're awake. We know what's actually going on. And they got worked into the digital currency. The digital currency is a transition, just like the outbreak was a transition. It was a transition into behavioral control. That's what it was about, taking your rights away. People willingly allowing the government to track them where they go by downloading apps on their phone. And they're like, that's not what this is. Just because I checked into a restaurant, I didn't social distance, and then I got an alert message, doesn't mean the government's tracking. No, it means exactly that. Take a look at this guy. I showed this clip before, talking about the future of currency and digital currency, and this guy's been put in place to do exactly that. The social credit score is coming, and it's coming around the world. They are turning it into China. So for people out there who watch this channel, who are liberals, who sit around and play video games all day, you aren't going to be living that life anymore, okay? You are going to be enslaved. That's why it is so imperative to grow balls and get out of this left and right paradigm, because they're dividing us while they're conquering us. And in reality, if we band together, this wouldn't be happening and these people would be taken down. This is your new Prime Minister in the UK.
Today, I'm proud to say that under the UK's presidency, the group of the world's 7 most advanced economies, the G7, is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies could be a digital version of money, a bit like a digital banknote that could be used alongside physical notes and coins. Unlike most of the digital money people use daily today, it would be issued directly by a central bank, like the Bank of England in the UK. And governments and central banks across the world are working together, looking into what having a digital currency might mean in practice. This includes issues that people care about, such as ensuring users' money would be safe and secure, that it could work with other ways to pay, would be energy efficient and available to everyone. A potential CBDC could offer businesses and consumers new ways to pay in the future. It's all part of the wider story of digital innovation that has delivered benefits to millions around the world and in the UK. The decision on whether to launch a central bank digital currency is for each country to make, and no G7 jurisdiction has yet made that choice. These decisions raise important questions about the reshaping of our economy, financial systems, and the way in which people interact with money and payments. That's why working together and careful evaluation with our international partners is essential. In the UK, earlier this year, I announced a new joint task force between the Treasury and the Bank of England to look into a potential CBDC as a complement to cash and bank deposits. We're also hearing from firms, technology experts and others. Under the leadership of the UK, this report today will help support and inform exploration of CBDCs in the G7 and beyond. With these principles, the G7 is leading an important step change in the global policy conversation. The report covers a range of important matters, such as financial stability, cyber resilience, energy efficiency, privacy, inclusion, and tackling illicit finance. These factors should all be considered when designing and potentially delivering a CBDC that would be fit for the future. Our shared objective is to ensure that CBDCs will be grounded in long-standing commitments to transparency, the rule of law, and sound economic governance. The G7 will continue its work in this important area, working with others to enhance understanding and use of these principles. We're excited to be taking a leading role with G7 members in publishing this exploratory work, bringing money and finance into the 21st century.
So, for those who don't know about the social score, I mean, where do I start? These are the exact quotes from media outlets that cover the Bank of England telling ministers to intervene on digital currency programming. Digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible. So right now what you have, even though this guy is supposedly a neoliberal, which is a capitalist, this guy is not a capitalist. The left and right are here to divide. That is their job. None of these guys on any side care about any of us. Doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your skin color, none of it. They detest humanity and they want to control humanity and keep everything for themselves and then detain us and keep us corralled in small areas, cubicles for the most part, like stuff you've seen in some of these Steven Spielberg movies where people are living inside dormitories with their families. I mean, that's what the goal is, but to also control your behavior. Why? Because if you question the government, they want to be able to shut you down. They want to be able to say, you don't get paid, you don't get to eat, you don't get to travel, you don't get to do anything. You're questioning us? How dare you question us? And they're getting more and more power because the citizens around the world are allowing them to gain more power because they're too busy fighting each other over these political parties that don't really exist. Your vote does not matter, okay? It does not matter. Why do you think there's all this nonsense between the left and the right in America about rigged elections? Oh, the liberals claimed it was rigged. 4 years later, the Republicans claimed it was rigged because it is rigged. And they want everyone to just go back and forth and pull their hair out while they're conquering everything. Now they have another puppet in place in the UK who is going to implement this digital ID and social score. It's just a matter of time. This is part of Agenda 2030. These are the next steps. They'll tell you it has to do with carbon, right? The World Economic Forum had a video last year where they showed, no joke, how it was good for the environment for people to put a barcode in their clothes. So in other words, to put a barcode in your undershirt, it was helpful to the environment. No, it wasn't helpful to the environment. Did it stop pollution? I mean, all it did was give the government access to track you and everything else that they have planned for you by putting this eventually inside of your body. So the Bank of England called on this in the past, and they've discussed this being implemented like China. Now, how do people around the world not see this? How do liberals in America not see it? How do Republicans not see it? Now, we know that the Republicans come out and they talk about this, and people assume that I'm one because my views would side with the Republican Party. But people like Donald Trump are going and meeting with Klaus Schwab. If there was a real president who was elected, first of all, he would never go there because it's a globalist orgy. He would never show up there, let alone shake hands with the devil himself, because that's what these people are. They have an obsession with controlling us from Gates all the way down, and digital ID is the end. That is the mark. It's going to be implemented inside your DNA. That's why it's important to follow what they're doing here with Bitcoin, with blockchain, with all of it. It's all trickled down to the point where they're going to implement something that you take, and they're getting people desensitized to taking things and putting them in their body. Don't think that that's not part of it. Of course it is. And for the people out there, I don't care if you like this channel or you don't. You have to wake up to what they're doing. This is what the world looks like in China. This video is before China implemented. It's in place now. This is what a social score looks like, where they tell people that you can't travel, you can't work, and you can't do anything because we don't like your behavior. And that'll be anything that you question. There's nothing to do. Right now, they're working this so that people are sensitive about sexuality and skin color. Because men and women can be divided, blacks and whites can be divided, straights and gays can be divided, right? That's what they're doing. That's why they're even pushing trans into schools, because they want to get people all riled up against one another. In reality, none of those things will actually matter, because if they disagree with what you say, if you post something online about your taxes, or if you don't want to go somewhere, or the government tells you that you need to do this, and they disagree with you, they're going after you. So don't think that the government and this type of control is in your favor, because it's not. Take a look at China.
By 2020, China plans to give all of its 1.4 billion citizens a personal score based on how they behave. So some people with low scores are already being punished if they want to travel. Nearly 11 million Chinese people can no longer fly, and 4 million are barred from trains. Next week, the program will start expanding nationwide. Ben Tracy is in China with what's behind the government scoring system. Ben, this sounds like scary stuff. Good morning.
Good morning. The government here says it is trying to purify society by rewarding those who are trustworthy and punishing those who are not. So like the credit score that most Americans get for how they handle their finances, Chinese citizens are now getting social credit scores based on everything from whether they pay their taxes on time to how they cross the street.
When Leo Hu recently tried to book a flight, he was told he was banned from flying because he's on the list of untrustworthy people. Leo is a journalist who was ordered by a court to apologize for a series of tweets he wrote and was then told his apology was insincere. I can't buy property. My child can't go to private school, he says. You feel you're being controlled by the list all the time. And the list is now getting longer, as every Chinese citizen is being assigned a social credit score, a fluctuating rating based on a range of behaviors. It's believed that community service and buying Chinese-made products can raise your score. Fraud, tax evasion, and smoking in non-smoking areas can drop it. If a score gets too low, a person can be banned from buying plane and train tickets, real estate, cars, and even high-speed internet. It's a good thing, this woman says. There should be punishment for people who can't behave. China's growing network of surveillance cameras makes all of this possible. The country already has an estimated 176 million cameras, and it plans to have more than 600 million installed by 2020.
It can recognize more than 4,000 vehicles.
Xu Li is the CEO of SenseTime, one of China's most successful artificial intelligence companies. It has created smart cameras for the government that can help catch criminals, but also track average citizens.
This knows every person, every bike, every car, every bus.
You can tell whether it is an adult, a child, a male or female.
In several big cities in China, including here in Shanghai, the government is even tracking jaywalkers. Cameras record them going through intersections, zero in on their face, and then publicly shame them on nearby video screens.
Ken Dewaskin has studied China's economic and political culture for more than 3 decades. He says how the new scoring system truly works is kept secret and could be easily abused by the government.
How far into people's daily mundane activities does this go?
Well, I think that the government and the people running the plan would like it to go as deeply as possible to determine how to allocate benefits and also how to impact and shape their behavior.
Now, there are upsides for people the Chinese government considers trustworthy. They can actually get better interest rates at banks, they can get discounts on their energy bills, and China's largest online dating site reportedly even boosts the profiles of people with high social credit scores. Nora?
Incredible. Ben Tracy in Beijing.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's the ultimate version of Big Brother's watching. No thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bone chilling.
Yeah, I think so too.
Imagine that. I mean, we do have, in major cities, we do have cameras everywhere.
Yeah, but if you're
imagine those
jaywalking-
cameras were
Yeah.
marking you down.
Right.
If you're jaywalking, I still expect to be able to fly.
Yeah.
Please don't take that away.
Or allow your kid to go to private
Yes,
school.
yes.
Wow. That's a great story to see what's happening there. Thank you, Ben.
So these World Economic Forum puppets have been put in place all around the world. And this is just another one that's thrown in there. And nobody goes, oh, this sounds like a globalist conspiracy with all of these guys. Yes, like I said earlier, Trump included, who meet with these people, right? Because who's had the world more divided than Donald Trump and the left and the right? It's all we hear about in America. For people in other countries, all we hear about. They talk about it. The guy hasn't even been a president for, 2 years now? Every day. Why? Because they drive people nuts. And then they put incompetent people in place who are deliberately being incompetent to make people even more angry at the other side. And they continue to go at each other. While these people continue to get placed in specific spots in cabinets and parliament all around the world for this globalist takeover. And it's not going to favor any of us. You think that life is rough now? It's going to get worse by 1,000,000 trillion times. They are going to control everything. And then people are going to go, it's too late. Then they're going to go, I shouldn't have cared. I've been so sensitive about my, what gender I am and all of this stuff. It is all deliberately being done to weaken society, to control society's behavior, to get people to be offended by everything, to be sensitive to everything, so that they could come in and say, you can't say that, that's hate speech. And then they could change what hate speech is, because eventually they will. And it'll go for the same people. It'll go for all of us. We'll all be enslaved because of sensitivity that they're creating. It's part of how they're getting behavioral control over society, which is total control. And the social score will ruin, it will create hell on earth, enslavement on earth. These people in China, I don't know how in the world they do it. But then you watch some of the video clips and some of them like it. And that's the scary part, because there's going to be some really weak, pathetic people in this country who like it and embrace it, because they're just going to be like, well, I'm a part of the liberal party. I'm a part of globalism. Go Ukraine. But they don't even know that they're enslaved. They're so stupid. This is going to continue to happen unless people stop dividing amongst each other and start calling this stuff out. And, sometimes people message me like they're veterans and stuff. And I don't know if people who are in the military still listen to my channel, but they are so crucial because they're going to turn to them to be their henchmen. And they're going to turn to them to protect the liberal party, because they're going to say that the Republican Party, they're the ones who have guns. They're the ones who are out of control. They're the ones who are a danger to our democracy. And they're going to convince the military to protect this fake democracy, which doesn't exist. And what we really need is we need the military to not work for these people anymore, to work for the citizens, not to protect these people. They look at the military and all of these, every organization, the CIA, the FBI, they look to them to protect them. That's it. They feel untouchable at this point. That's why they're doing it and getting away with it. They've weakened society, they've protected themselves, and now they're doing it, and it's so obvious it's going on that really you would have to have your head up your own rear end not to see it. I mean, thing after thing, puppet after puppet. And people are just like, I like them because they're liberal. I like them because they're in the blue party. Who cares about what party they're in? These people do not have your best interest at heart, your family's best interest at heart, or the future of the world at heart. They want to see the total destruction of the world and total control over it. They're creating the economic collapse. They're creating the food shortages. They're creating the division. They're creating the racial tension, and it needs to stop. And the only way we can stop it, and I know everyone's going to message me and say, well, we'll let God, intervene. We'll let the return of our king come. And I agree 100%. I'm not being sarcastic when I say that. Of course, I believe that. But I didn't read a verse in the Bible that said, hey, sit back, let these people, come to your property and take your kids and your wife and tell people where they can and can't go and just overly try to take control of your every move. You see what they do to farmers in the Netherlands, taking their farms. I mean, this is unheard of behavior that they're getting away with. And they're getting away with it because society is distracted by nonsense, utter nonsense. And it's time for people to wake up. So another puppet's in place in the UK now. I mean, it just continues on as we head towards 2030. And it doesn't look like they're taking their foot off the gas because they're not. And more suckers are going to go and get their magic potion shots because they're complete fools. And more of them are going to get sick. And more of them are going to spread it and shed it. And it's going to continue on and on and on. It's unreal how they're getting away with this. It truly is. Thank you guys for being here. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you and your families.